Welcome to the video guys, another day and Sadiq Khan is out there giving me a reason to make a video on him. As most of you might know, he appeared on LBC yesterday with James O'Brien, as he usually does, talking to members of the public that are obviously vetted by LBC. So, while the questions are rather tough for Sadiq Khan to actually answer, they are not as tough as they would be if I was on the phone to him, which every time I've tried to call into LBC, I've always been left on hold and never actually got through. But it would seem someone did manage to get through and actually ask him some tough questions, leaving him slightly squirming in his seat, which is nothing new for the snivelling shitweasel that is Sadiq Khan. Well, during the show, he was destroyed for his record on housing, crime, and obviously Brexit, which he continually butts his nose into, and yet again called Brexit the greatest self-harm to this country, which I would have to disagree with, because I believe Sadiq Khan as London Mayor creates the most economic damage this country will ever know, even more than the coronavirus crisis. Imagine how much better London would be doing if it actually had a decent mayor, which hopefully next year it will. But the Express has picked up on this with the article headlining "You have failed. Sadiq Khan squirms after his record as mayor is savaged in on-air row." It's not really an on-air row, the guy just tells it how it is. Sadiq Khan talks a bunch of nonsense in response and, as usual, doesn't answer the question. Sadiq Khan's record as London mayor was brutally savaged during a heated on-air clash when a Londoner questioned whether the Labour politician was really a mayor of this city, which he is in name only. He doesn't actually do anything to help the city like the mayor should. Instead, he helps to send it into the shitter quicker than it was already going. Sadiq Khan's record as London Mayor faced a damning assessment during his appearance on LBC on Friday morning. Nick from Kensington issued an extensive list of Sadiq Khan's failures during his time in power, prompting a heated on-air row. Sadiq Khan struggled to respond to the claims that he failed on key promises, as well as criticisms for his obsession with stopping Brexit, which is something we have covered multiple times on this channel. He might as well have joined the Liberal Democrats with his stop Brexit stance. Nick told Sadiq Khan on LBC, "You failed on housing, your fare freeze on TfL has been a disaster, you failed on Crossrail 1, you failed for making the case for Crossrail 2, you have failed to support the government on Brexit, COVID and Heathrow. Are you really a mayor of this city?" Which are all perfectly valid points and reiterates what I have said before, that everything this guy does, he completely cocks up. Mr. Khan hit back by comparing himself to the previous London Mayor and current Prime Minister Boris Johnson, because that is all he can do. Blame everyone else while taking the attention off himself and claiming it's something to do with the Tories, or in this case Boris Johnson, which we all know that Sadiq Khan suffers from Boris derangement syndrome, much like he suffers from Trump derangement syndrome, which is why the God Emperor shat all over Sadiq Khan before it even landed in the UK last year, calling him a stone cold loser from a mile up just before he landed in the UK. So, the snivelling shitweasel Sadiq Khan had been shit on by the God Emperor Donald Trump before he had even stepped foot on British soil. Mr. Khan said that Mr. Johnson had started free homes for social rent, while he began more than 7,000 last year. He continued, "I also increased the number of homes we've started, so last year we began more than 17,000, a record. The year before more than 14,000, a record. A year before that more than 12,500, a record. We've also built more council homes than any year since 1982. Now, you have to listen to what he actually said there. He said started, not completed, not made, so these numbers mean less than nothing. Started could mean literally just planning applications or the drawing up of plans to actually build this number of homes. It doesn't necessarily mean they have actually started laying bricks and shit for these homes. Because I would like to bet that they haven't. Doesn't matter which political party it is, they're always talking about building these homes, yet they never actually happen. And the ones that they do build, they give away to so-called asylum seekers that the border force helps to bring over here, as we already know. The London Mayor apologised for Nick failing to get Crossrail opened as planned. Nobody really cares about that. Mr. Khan went on to say there is an inquiry into the coronavirus. He will be publishing all his correspondence and conversations with the government as he sought to blame them for errors in response. because that is all he can do. Now, we know the government have fucked up when it comes to the coronavirus, but not in the ways that this little toad is saying, or at least they're not the important ones. There are a variety of questions the government needs to answer when this situation is actually over. He explained, I think they've made huge errors in the last few weeks in relation to coronavirus, and it's really important we learn the lessons in real time. Even Boris Johnson this morning admitted they had made mistakes in relation to coronavirus. He then turned to Brexit, which of course you always knew he was going to do. Listen to this crap though. He added, on Brexit, Nick, I think it's the biggest act of economic self-harm our country has ever done. Nope, I've already discussed that I think that is probably you. But here we have the actual peach of the article and shows something the government is actually doing that is good. Mr. Khan then claimed he wanted more power, saying that a lot of his plans he wanted to implement as mayor had been blocked by the government, which is obviously a good thing. We don't want this little arsehole having any more power than he's already got. In fact, we want him out of the job as quick as possible. Viewers condemned the response, claiming Mr. Khan just blamed the government and didn't answer the question, which we all know is Labour Party policy at this point. They have got their attack dogs in the media going at it full tilt, as we all know. While I'll be the first to admit that the government has fucked up on a variety of different things, the media is always after them for the wrong issue because they don't want to talk about the issues that really affect the people of this country. One person tweeted, so many of my friends have moved out of London because of the crime. Khan is obsessed with Brexit. He needs to focus on his job. He can't focus on his job because then he will be exposed as the incompetent, snivelling shitweasel that he is, knowing for a fact he can't be the Mayor of London because he lacks the ability and common sense to be able to do it. Now, it is rather funny that the person who was always interviewing Sadiq Khan is James O'Brien and not someone like Nick Ferrari who will actually hold him to task on some of the bullshit that he comes out with. But I have to say, it is good to hear Londoners calling this snivelling shitweasel out for his piss poor record that really should be public knowledge to everyone across the country. And as I've said before, I do think the London Mayor should be voted for by the entire country as it affects the country as a whole, being the capital city. But I think you would agree it's always good to hear this snivelling shitweasel squirming in his seat when he's called out by people for his disastrous tenure as London Mayor. But as always, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who supports the channel, and my other social media links are down in the video description if you want to come and support me on Twitter, BitChute and a variety of other platforms, including my second YouTube channel. As I said, all links are down in the video description.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.